A very good day to you and welcome to this week's edition of What's Not Making Headlines, the show that focuses on significant stories which are often not given much traction in mainstream news. I'm Ananda Homo. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, at home, we'd like to hear from you on what you think should have been making headlines this past week. The number to dial there is 011 542 1046, and you can share your views on any of the stories we're covering. Now, first story this week is the perceived slow response on sexual harassment. The Dullah Omar Institute and Lawyers for Human Rights, through the hashtag Not Our Leaders campaign, is putting the spotlight on political parties by requesting copies of their sexual harassment policies. Now, according to a report, Dullah Omar Institute's Women and Democracy Initiative says that they noticed a trend where elected leaders are linked to sexual violence and abuse incidents. This is allegedly happening in political parties, government departments and legislatures across the board. Institute researcher Vivian Meto-Lalo said that they want to know from the legislature what law and policy they rely on when faced with complaints of sexual misconduct or gender-based violence. Now, the Institute also wants to know what mechanisms are in place to address sexual misconduct. And joining us in studio, as usual, to unpack these stories further, we've got a guest of panel. We've got Umzwandi Lekati, who's the editor of Soweto Urban Newspaper. We also have Grace Bilo, a journalist from Soweto Urban Newspaper, as well as Ujobe Sitole, who's a journalist, as well as a media commentator. Very warm welcome to you guys. Familiar faces all around. Happy Sunday.
Thank you.
Thanks.
But not so happy when we take a look at our first story. This story comes on the backdrop of the, let me say, the spotlight that's been placed on violence against women during Women's Month. We've seen it throughout the month so far, that is what the conversation is around. And this speaks to how seriously our leaders take this kind of issue. Let's start with you, Grace. Your views.
Personally, I feel like our leaders do not take this issue seriously at all because, for example, we have the Minister of Women in the presidency being Bathabile Dlamini, who stood up for Mduduzi Manana, a former MP, in a time where he was accused of beating a woman up too, actually. And she stood up for him. And this is the same person that was elected as the Minister of Women in the presidency. So clearly, women's issues are not being taken seriously by government. And yet every day they want to, like on Wednesday, on Women's Day, Thursday rather, they wanted to say, yes, we are behind women, but the appointments in the office says they're not. So those are my views.
And really did come out and say a lot when Umama Batabila was appointed to that ministry. But I guess it remains to be seen because, we've seen throughout the month so far of a hectic program that seems to be targeting these issues. So I think let's give her an opportunity. The governing party did somehow let us down. They kept Duduzi Manana in that position for a whole year after being convicted of that crime, and that still doesn't sit well with me. Zondile, what's your take?
I think the time for condemning these things and actually not doing anything is over now. I think the people want action. It's not enough for government leaders or government officials or our leaders to say, yeah, we are against women and gender violence and whatever. I think it's time for action. The people need action. Like that study or that institution was saying, we need policies on sexual harassment in terms of political parties. What is their stance? What are they doing? I think action is more important now.
More than
sloganizing or condemning these things.
Jobe, let me bring you in as well.
Yeah, I think to be quite honest, what we're seeing from this institute is that it's clear that political parties and our leaders are actually not serious about clamping down on sexual violence and abuse in general. Why would it take so long for leaders or even political formations to respond to the institute when it says bring forward your policies on how you handle such issues in your organizations,
And the fact that they've taken the fact that they've taken so long and they've had to put in a 30-day deadline speaks volumes.
Oh, definitely.
Do you not have it? Or what are you running away from?
Prioritizing it. I think it's more a question of them not prioritizing it, or them knowing that whatever policy they do have in place is not enough. So there will obviously be outcry about it. So I think maybe they want these 30 days to fix whatever policy they have to make it more pleasable to the people, more acceptable to the people around.
Yeah, but I mean, they're dragging their feet. They've been given ample opportunity to come forward and say, this is what you are about it. This is the action that we take against leaders. I mean, and it actually cuts across the board. I mean, it's not only the ANC.
No,
you know, I mean, the
DA.
DA.
As well.
I just actually looked at my notes here. I mean, the DA, I think in May, charged one of the leaders in the Eastern Cape, if I'm not mistaken, and the person is still in office. You know, they haven't been removed from office. You know, so I think we also have to be quite fair and say it's actually happening across the board.
No, it definitely is. Because, sorry, when you mentioned the DA, there's actually an incident back in 2015, if I'm also looking down on my notes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a guy that was taken through the disciplinary process involved for what he had done to one of the staff members, and he was fined 12,000 rands and community service for a whole year. I mean, really?
See, that's the thing. It's always money that is used to replace people's dignity. I don't know why they think that is enough. And this supposed community service, like, who is it going to help? Is it going to change their attitudes? So I definitely think political
And then obviously once there's an outcry from the public, then they are seen to be acting, you know. And
so it's all a facade, really.
Yeah, of course.
All right, let's see how many of them comply with that 30-day notice that's been put in place for them to hand in the sexual harassment policies. Now, our second story for the day is Tembisa pensioners have come together to challenge high billing by the city of Ekurhuleni. Elderly residents have been complaining since the electricity has been linked to other municipal services. The residents are supposedly forced to pay for services which they do not have. A resident has been quoted saying that they were sent an SMS to go and collect 240-litre wheelie bins in Kempton Park. Now, since 2009, residents were billed for those bins, which they say were never delivered. Let's talk about this one. This tariff billing has been an issue across Johannesburg for the longest time. I mean, we had that huge thing with the Johannesburg, so some areas have obviously fallen by the wayside. Let's start with you, Jobe.
So, you know, it's just unfortunate that we don't have, you know, the relevant people that are related to this issue or to this story. Because apparently, I think there was a meeting yesterday, I think in Tembisa, with all affected, you know, parties, you know, and stakeholders. You know, it would have been interesting to hear from them, you know, what came out of that meeting, you know, in terms of their grievances. You know, because this issue has been dragging on since 2009, if I'm not mistaken, you know. And there doesn't seem to be any resolve, relief. You know, to any relief, you know, from the authorities, you know. And in Soweto as well, there have been similar issues, but I'm sure the colleagues here can elaborate.
Yeah, absolutely. You have covered the view.
It's not just the issue of billing. Even though we have billing issues in North Gesag specifically, where there's wrong addresses and all those things, but also the issue of cost when it comes to these services, especially electricity for pensioners and the unemployed. That is still a huge issue when it comes to Soweto, and seemingly for now there's no way forward.
And my issue with this is that these elderly people get 1,600 rands a month, and they reportedly get bills of like 3,000. I mean, just take us briefly through what you know of this Tembisa situation. You're saying that it started 2009, and Jobe, just give us more clarity on exactly what's been happening leading up to this meeting yesterday.
I mean, to be quite honest, there isn't much, you know, detail that has been given, you know, apart from that, you know, the residents, in particular the pensioners, you know, have been receiving these, you know, incorrect, you know, bills, and obviously it's eating into their grants, you know, their pensions, you know. But nothing much has been forthcoming even from the authorities, which is quite unfortunate.
This is unfortunate, and that's why we have this kind of show where we put the spotlight on issues that haven't been covered in mainstream media. I mean, remember when the Johannesburg in affluent areas, it was a big thing. It was dominating headlines, and it was sorted out because people stood up and they fought it. And I remember, if I'm not mistaken, the DA came out strongly in support of it, spearheaded the whole thing, and from what we understand, it was resolved. So what now do we do, sitting here as news media, to highlight this same situation in these areas that has not received that much attention, like Ekurhuleni, like Tembisa, like Soweto?
I think the onus is on us to keep our focus on these things, because, like you've said, not much attention is being given to them, but it's a serious issue. Like I'm saying, even in North Gauteng, people are getting double bills. There's issue of addresses. Bills are not delivered in the correct addresses, and then exorbitant bills. People get billed high bills that they don't even know about. So, but this thing has been going on for quite some time now, and it seems like there's no solution to it. I think maybe if we can give it more attention, give more attention to it, maybe, I don't know, something might come out of it.
And I think it's especially important for us as community media, because this is what we are here to do. We are here to give people the spotlight and give these issues a spotlight. So people should, I definitely think they should tell us more about these things, because we also have the challenge of people not coming forward, because there's a perception that community media does not work, because people usually go to your Daily Sun instead and bypass us, whereas we are the ones, we are there for them specifically,
You're the
and
voice
nobody
of
else.
the community.
Yeah, so I definitely think people need to speak more to community media, so we also have a bigger understanding of these issues, because we are there for them and only them.
But I think to just add to that, is to say, I think as media and as journalists, it must also go beyond just reporting.
Of course.
So we actually have to take have case studies and actually say to the authorities, these are the case studies, these are the issues. What are you doing about it? Because I think we've moved past now, the time of just reporting and saying this is what's happening. Let's actually be seen to be proactive and say, these are the issues. What are you doing to tackle this?
And keep at them.
No, of course, absolutely.
Definitely. Now, next story, a time frame has been set and demolition finally started on an old asbestos school, North Gauteng Primary School. The school was supposed to be demolished and reconstructed in 2009 due to health risks associated with asbestos. Now, a construction company has been given 60 months to finish the whole project. Democratic Alliance Shadow MEC of Education, Kumo Ramolefo, has welcomed the demolition of the old school buildings. This would otherwise be a good story.
Yeah. I mean, you will remember that this has been an issue for North Gauteng with the Department of Education and the DA at loggerheads against each other. So what happened was, the school was one of those schools which were built using asbestos, which is obviously not safe for the kids and in terms of health-wise and all. So in 2014, they allocated about 17.8 million to renovate the school. So before that project to renovate the school started, the department said, okay, no, this is going to be a waste of money. Let's rather build a new school. So they did allocate about 90 million to rebuild the school, but also there were delays. I mean, because that budget was in 2016, that of 90 million. So finally, after those delays, because remember they have to via Department of Public Works and all, but the DA, the Shadow MEC of Education, Kume Ramolefo, has been pushing for this issue since then. So last week or week before last, he visited the school, and finally construction has started of the new school. The kids were moved to temporary structures just across the road from the school, and work has started, which is, I think, is a positive thing. Finally.
It's a positive thing. This is the kind of leadership we want to see, because apparently in the whole of Gauteng, there's 214 schools that are either completely asbestos or partially asbestos. Now, from what my understanding is that 24 of them are completely asbestos, and what you find is that they are all in the southwestern area, and they've been given a deadline of November 2019.
2019, yes.
To make sure that all of them are completely restored.
Yes. So, but also we should also note the fact that there was an issue when last year, I think it was last year, when they were supposed to start demolishing the old structures. So the parent had a problem with moving their kids to other schools in Deep Kloof, saying no, actually they were not comfortable with that. Hence they had to wait for these temporary structures to be placed on the school ground, on the ground across the school, across the road from the school. So,
Mzondile, what was the issue that raised this discomfort in the parents?
It's no one knows. It's not clear. But that was one of the delays last year. I mean, there was even some sort of a protest. Happening. It's, no, you can't take our kids because it's far or whatever. Even the department saying we can provide transport, but that didn't work. Finally, the department decided, okay, we'll build a temporary structure just across the road for your kids to continue learning while we deal with the school.
Okay, I know we're moving slightly off this topic of the good news.
Yeah.
But Grace, you have a smirk on your face.
Yeah, no,
when I mentioned the discomfort to the parents.
I certainly do not think it has anything to do with the distance, especially since Mzondile did say that the department was willing to provide transport. From what I can tell in my experience in Soweto, it definitely has nothing to do with distance. It's more of a race issue.
A racial issue.
Yeah.
Because Nyokasako is predominantly colored.
Yes,
And
then just across the streets, it's black.
Deep Kloof where there's black people. And this is a generalization. But however, colored people are known not to want to associate with black people. So it definitely has nothing to do with distance.
And this has been going on for quite some time. I mean, to be honest, you know, let's not sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
It's been going on for quite some time.
I'm sorry. But
We had a race issue even at Klipspruit West Secondary School, where an Indian a principal was placed there, and then he had challenges, and then I think a black principal as well. So I think it was one of those things.
But I just wanted to ask Mzondile just briefly. I mean, so are the authorities and the contractor, you know, that has been given the work, you know, to build the school, are they now confident that they will be, you know, running on schedule?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, even the DA leader Kumi, when he was there, he was positive about the progress, saying, okay, no, I'm positive, I'm sure they will reach the deadline. And you saw the headline saying they are working ahead of time. So there is,
Okay.
All right, let's move on away from that story. And we move on now to our last story. Over 1,300 cases of diarrhea have been reported in Bombela in Mpumalanga. The provincial government has expressed a serious concern as an infection seems to be spreading to other areas. The source of this alarming diarrhea outbreak has reportedly not yet been identified. However, water tests are continuously being conducted by Ehlanzeni District Municipality, the Department of Water and Sanitation, as well as the city of Mbombela on a daily basis. 2 people have since lost their lives due to that outbreak. Now, the reporter who has been covering the story since the outbreak joins us on the phone line, and that is Bridget Mbande. A very good afternoon to you, Bridget.
Regarding this topic of women abuse and children, I think really we are not addressing the thing holistically. We are just one-sided on men's misbehavior. And really, what causes that? Are we addressing the woman's behavior in as far as this thing is concerned also? Because I don't think it's only the problem of men. That is my comment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. There was a caller there. Just to add on to one of the stories that we've just covered, Johannes from Freiburg, thank you so much for your contribution to that conversation. We now move on to Bridget Mbande, who covered this story we've just covered on the 1,300 cases of diarrhea outbreak in Bombela in Mpumalanga. Now, Bridget, a very good afternoon to you. Now, the latest update on this is that 2 people have lost their lives due to this outbreak.
Good afternoon. A statement was indeed released by the Department of Health saying that they're conducting an investigation with regards to 2 people that have died. However, they retracted the statement. So for now, we don't know where we stand. Although I spoke to a family that is saying that is alleging that one of their family members died because of this diarrhea outbreak.
Now, Bridget, from your covering of the story, I mean, how far is the work to ascertain the cause behind this outbreak?
For now, there's not much that we know. The only thing that I know is that Sempop Sululumanzi is doing an investigation when it comes to the water. They say they've tested the reservoirs, the supplying lines, the river, and they even went to the family members of the people that are suffering from the outbreak, although they cannot find that anything in the water. So as far as they're concerned, there's nothing in the water, and then the municipality is currently also doing the investigation, and the provincial government is also on it. However, no one seems to know where the problem is. However, the number keeps increasing, because when it started, it was 155, and then it went to 307. Now it's 1,300.
This is scary.
No, it is scary.
Yes, it is.
It is scary. Bridget, it's Jobes Tolle here in the studio. I just wanted to understand, I mean, has the department or authorities, in the province reassured, communities that this outbreak will not spread into other areas of the province?
Unfortunately, they have not. In the past month, when it started somewhere around July, actually when they realized that there's a problem, it was somewhere in July. It was in a certain area called Tekwani North. But then now it's moving. It's moving from one place to another. It has gone as far as Kamagugu, Pinar. It's no longer a thing of saying it's in the Tekwani North area or Tekwani South. It's moving, and the department has not assured anyone because they don't even know what it is. It's an unknown outbreak illness that they cannot seem to find out what it is. But then they've told the public just to be on the safe side, to boil water before drinking water, and those who can to buy water.
And obviously this makes it now very difficult to prevent. I mean, obviously hygienic practices are the norm, but what have they communicated to the people besides just the water now? Because they haven't found anything in the water, am I correct?
Yeah. Yes, they haven't found anything. Tests were done, several tests by different stakeholders, and they can't seem to find, they are saying they can't seem to find anything in the water. And for now, they just gave the public the measures to follow. Wash your hands, wash your vegetables, wash your fruits before you eat them. Just the basic stuff. Buy hand sanitizers to keep clean, just to make sure that you're clean, because we don't know where it is and where it's coming from.
And this is the same issue we saw with the listeriosis outbreak.
Oh, yes.
Where they had no idea where it was coming from or what was causing, but they knew that.
For all we know, it might be coming from food or something.
Yes.
How do we know if
Have they gone
it's
beyond testing the water? That's what I wanted to ask Bridget.
Please ask Bridget. Bridget, you're still on the line with us. Now a question from one of our panel members, Grace, is asking, have they conducted tests beyond just the water in those areas?
For now, they've only tested water, because when the outbreak started, we all thought it was water, and they did test on water. Now they're currently busy with investigations. However, I do not know where exactly they are at the moment, because the last statement that was released was the one stating that it's, the numbers of the people that are affected has increased to 1,300. Although I don't know which investigations they are conducting at the moment. I'm still busy with them, trying to find out, sending them inquiries to try and find out how far are you, what's happening, how do you then know if more people are not being affected every day, or if there's more people that are dying from diarrhea. Although I have not received responses yet, I'm still waiting on that, although I'm on it to try and find out more information, because the community members are scared. They say they don't know what to do because they don't know what is the cause of the outbreak.
And that was going to be my next question on how the community is saying in light of this. I mean, there's nothing more scary than watching people around you go through such a thing and having no idea where it comes from?
Yeah, they are really worried about it because I went to the ground and spoke to some community members in Kanyamazane and Tekwani North where everything started. They're saying they don't know what to do anymore because I also spoke to Elena who didn't go to school because she had diarrhea. I went to another family, another guy was complaining that his mother is not well and they don't know what to do anymore and they're scared because some of them, they say they cannot afford to buy water. Some are saying they don't even know even if after boiling the water, if it's still safe. And some are saying the worst part is when they keep boiling the water, they don't know if indeed it is the water because they could be focusing on the water and
this is something
it might be something else that is not even close to being the water.
All right, Bridget, thank you so much. That was Bridget Mpande. And obviously, Bridget, you will keep us updated on this story, please. This is Bridget, who writes for Mpumalanga Newspaper News, just giving us there an update on the diarrhea outbreak in Mpumalanga that has claimed 2 lives and still 1,300 of them have expressed have gone to health facilities, basically, with symptoms of this diarrhea. Gentlemen, and lady, anything to add on this topic before we wrap it up for the day?
I definitely think they should also involve the agricultural sector because this might be something in the animals perhaps or the actual vegetables. So I think they need to go beyond testing the water because at this point it is clear that it is not the water.
Yeah,
need to widen the scope.
especially because she's saying it moved from one area to
another.
So maybe there's a common thread. Something is happening between these areas, you know.
But I think to just add on there, I would also want the authorities, you know, in particular the municipalities that are affected, to communicate better, you know, to communities, to allay their fears, because really this could actually spread, you know, to the rest of the province. Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today. Join us again next week as we cover more stories that are not getting the traction they deserve in mainstream news. In studio, we had Grace Bilo, Soweto Urban journalist, Mzwandile Kati, who's the Soweto Urban newspaper editor, as well as Jobe Sitole, journalist and media commentator. Thank you so much. And from us, goodbye.